we are used to a path of effort and struggle in which we are always trying to become something other than what we are. So a duality is created, a hypocrisy is created, which is fundamental to our life, a hypocrisy. So we have to just be what we are and accept it. And if we completely accept how the divine has architectured us, with the divine nature and the demonic nature side by side, then there is the possibility of the divine stepping in, the unmanifest stepping in and modifying that nature. But we should not even have the desire that the divine as the unmanifest, that it will create a saint out of us. That is not necessary. Please understand that that becoming and that craving is unnecessary. If there's a becoming and a craving, that is probably coming from the compulsions of society, where saints are respected and ordinary mortals are not respected. So, to get that more recognition from society, we may want to get on to a higher pedestal in the spiritual life. And you can get onto the higher pedestal in the spiritual life by becoming innocent, by completely accepting yourself as you are, not struggling, and by admitting, yes, I'm all this, yes, I'm all this, and then just resting there. At that crossroad, just resting. I want all of us to pass this milestone if possible, because this is very, very important. Otherwise, we live in a life of conflict, a life of becoming. And then, so long as we are going to be in the flow of becoming, then being is unknown to us. We don't know what it is, because that comes after every struggle has subsided. We have renounced consciously every struggle to be other than what we are. And we have to awaken to the pain that is part of our life. And then there has to be the complete embracing of that pain, the experiencing of that pain. And when we embrace the pain and drink that pain, then there is the purgation of that pain. Because the pain has come there to perform a certain function. It's a messenger. It's not an accident. The divine being, supremely intelligent, has architectured all these galaxies. So it couldn't have made a mistake by creating pain in the human life. And therefore that pain must be allowed to do its function, which is to snuff out a part of the individuality which is not needed anymore. One part of individuality will have to die, probably another individuality will commence by divine mandate. Any questions on this? Any questions? Any discomfort in the way you perceive this retreat or this teaching, or any part of that thing which is troubling you somewhere? You've got to bring it to light so that we can discuss it more, and then you can get that peace.
I have a question.
Please.
Every time I'm in a workshop like this and we go into meditation, I end up sleeping.
Mm.
And it's like happening for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious if you have any insight on that.
Mm.
Because I sit down and I meditate and I go into slumber.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get up, but total slumber. So.
Mm. That means because sleep, we've got to understand that the God Krishna says in the Gita Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This divine Maya created by me works through the gunas, the sattva, rajas and tamas. The sattva is the very gentle energy which makes us very gentle beings, very compassionate, very kind, very intelligent, very perceptive. And the rajas is the energy which makes us very restless and very active. And the tamas is the manifestation of energy which gives us lethargy and indolence and inactivity. And sleep is a manifestation of tamas. So if you are falling asleep in meditation, there is nothing wrong with it. All we have to learn from that is, in consciousness, the ingredient of tamas is more, and therefore to enhance sattva and rajas, because it's only by increasing sattva and increasing rajas that tamas will go down, because the three together, they form a kind of triad, and therefore we have to do pranayama, and we have to do other forms of meditation like watching consciousness, pranayama especially, and also asanas. We've got to do them so that sattva is increased. And when sattva is increased and has become more in proportion, then the tamas automatically goes down. And then the tendency to just slip into sleep may not happen. So this is a problem encountered by many people in the spiritual path. It is not a problem unique to you. So you just have to increase the sattva by means of more pranayama and more asanas. And then the heaviness in the consciousness will go, and then you will not be slipping into sleep. Pranayama is the regulated breathing, which you learn in yoga. That is, you've got to inhale for T seconds, then hold breath for T seconds, then you exhale for T seconds, 2 T seconds. So the ratio is 1:1:2. Inhalation is to retention, is to exhalation, is 1:1:2. And then you've got to do it in a day. Probably you can do it 20 minutes to half an hour in the morning, and 20 minutes to half an hour in the evening at sunrise time and sunset time. And the body, the spine should be erect, and you should sit in an erect position, and then there should be no effort in this breathing. Because the definition of yoga is, the whole thing is effortless. Sthira Sukha Asana. Asana is defined as that which is sthira, that which is stable, that which is sukha, that which gives you comfort. You feel well poised, you are in equilibrium. That is called sthiram sukham asanam, the definition of asana. You've got to be stable, the posture has to be stable, and the posture has to give you comfort and happiness. Then it's an asana, it's a posture. And in that posture, you've got to do this breathing. Probably also got to do many other asanas to make the body more supple, more sattvic, and the consciousness also more sattvic. So the purpose of the whole of yoga is moksha. But when yoga has come to the West, moksha has taken a back seat, and yoga has come to stay for health. Not wrong, but that's not the true purpose. The true purpose is salvation or moksha. But many people are doing yoga only for health. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, about 170 Yoga Sutras, they culminate in Kaivalya or moksha. That is the scriptural text. It's intended for that. So the body as an instrument and the consciousness as an instrument has to become more sattvic and supple and attuned for getting on the road of moksha. So they're being prepared. in a certain way so that they will felicitate this happening. But it's not happening tomorrow evening, take note. Haste is not going to work. Yeah.
Meditation. I have a little bit of a problem with meditation. What would be a good way to meditate? Because I'd like to do it on a daily basis, but I haven't been able to find an effective way for me.
Yeah, there are different methods of meditation coming from India, and some Hindu masters who are very tight in the Hindu tradition, they do not base their work on self-knowledge and on self-knowing. So they just maybe following the tradition, and they say, take a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, and then go on chanting this mantra, go on chanting. But you will find that as you start chanting this mantra, then there comes an obtrusive, nagging thought, because you're not attended to a pain, and the pain is calling attention. So you actually can't do that mantra sadhana. Even though it has been enjoined by your guru or your teacher that you should do that particular mantra sadhana, because the consciousness has to be first purged of that pain by completing the process of experiencing that pain, so that it becomes placid, becomes calm. And so some people ask you to meditate on a mantra like this. Some people ask you to contemplate on the meaning of the mantra. Not silently go on saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. No. Contemplate on the meaning of the mantra. Get into the soul of the mantra. Which means you've got to do a subtle kind of thinking and a subtle kind of meditation you've got to do. Then some masters, original masters, like Krishnamurti for example, he will say that you start watching yourself. And if you don't know yourself, then meditation is a big joke. It's an escape from daily living. Because you don't know yourself. You've got things like lust and jealousy and so much of anger. And to meditate is to know that all these things are there, and through the knowing and through the accepting and through the being, bring about a possible ending of that. Not as a self-seeking pursuit. It may naturally happen. To observe all that, to know all that, and not to correct it, not to tamper with it, just watching it. That's one kind of meditation. Then Nisargadatta Maharaj asks you to do a different kind of meditation. He says, now try to abide in the I amness, which is behind every thought, which is actually the root form of that consciousness. If the consciousness is likened to a tree with a main trunk and many branches and leaves, then the many branches and leaves are like the various thoughts and feelings and consciousness, and the trunk is the I amness, the I, which is always there. And so constantly abide in it as you're driving your car, as you're walking, as you're eating, just abide in it. Don't do anything. Then the unmanifest Parabrahma will come and swallow you up. That is his teaching. Then Ramana Maharshi's meditation is in the form of Atma Vichara, that is inquiry into who am I really? Am I this body? Or am I this thought or this feeling? Or who is this I? How did this I originate? This building originated because a civil engineer built this building 7 years ago or something. And how did the I originate? Where from it came? So inquiry into that. That's a research. So for whom? For true seekers of Atmajnana and self-realization, for them. So there are a whole spectrum of meditations coming from India, depending on the suitability of that meditation for various kinds of seekers. And you've got to see which meditation fits your personality and your spiritual appetite. And then you've got to do that as a sadhana. Some people can play a music and then you can just get into the music and then you can just be deeply listening. That's also meditation.
En mi meditación que estaba haciendo ahorita, sentí, después de un rato, ya estar en el pensamiento, en la actividad, que venía en mi cuerpo adentro hirviendo, como desde mis piernas venía un fuego, que me empecé a sentir caliente, caliente, como si hirviera yo por dentro. Lo dejé pasar, no le di importancia a esta sensación, y me vino como sentí que mi cuerpo se salía, como si estaba yo y como que brincó. Bueno.
In the last meditation, after some few minutes of meditating, suddenly I started feeling like a fire, like my inside my body was boiling from my feet up. This tremendous heat, a lot of heat, and something was boiling from the feet. And she says, and suddenly like the body jumped, like something came out.
Okay, she wants an explanation for this. Yeah, this is a Kundalini experience, and sometimes these kind of things happen, and not to worry about it. It may be due to the body's tridoshas. That means the body has got the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. The body has got vata, pitta and kapha, the three ingredients of the body. And if they're not properly balanced as they should be in a healthy body, then you can have this kind of a slightly aberrant form of a Kundalini experience. Not a pleasant form, but a slightly aberrant form. And this is such an experience.
The acceptance of oneself. In my experience in life, I have committed many mistakes, and the pain has been terrible, and I have let myself feel the pain, as burned, as you say. But today, I am trying to do what you're saying, let myself be, just the way I am, with my angels and with my demons.
Right, right.
But I am experiencing different things right now. And I realize the things I have done in my past and my mistakes. And I realize my demons are still here. And I don't want them to appear and commit the same mistakes I did in my past. I don't...
That's the ego talking.
That's the ego?
Yeah. But what is the whole teaching? Whoever told you that you made a mistake? Because everything which is happening in the world, including the so-called sins, are happening according to the divine will. A sin may have to be made in the beginning for a learning to occur, for you to move on, and life is a whole process of learning. And here we are just understanding the human drama and the angels and the demons inside us. And the angels are ashamed of the demons and want to criticize and condemn and punish the demons. But the demons and the angels, they're both in God's creation. It is not that only the angels are God's creation, and then where do we put the demons? They're also part of the divine drama. And it happened according to the divine mandate. And be compassionate with yourself. And fear is speaking and fear is telling. If the demon is not controlled, then the demon will come again tomorrow. Why should you worry about it? Because the demon has already visited you 100 times. So when the demon comes for the 101st time in your life, you're not going to be any more scared than what you were scared in the first 100 visits. So this is an illusory fear which is talking. You've got to completely accept every part of yourself. The demonic especially, by accepting the divine, the angelic and the divine thing, nobody has a problem. Everybody has a problem by accepting the demonic. And you've got to be compassionate with the demonic nature. You've got to completely be comfortable with it. You are uncomfortable because of social injunctions. Society has told you you're probably a sinner and you're on a wrong path or something. But there are millions of people on planet Earth who are so-called on a wrong path. And what do you do with the millions? Throw them in the sea? Obviously not. You've got to have a more sensible approach. If you take the viewpoint that you're a sinner, then millions or even billions may have to be dumped into the sea. And that's stupid. So one must have a more compassionate approach. Doesn't matter if the sin has happened or whatever it is. Learn from it and accept it as a divine happening, even the sin as a divine happening. Become comfortable with it. And you've got to give up the whole idea of a struggle to correct and to change. This is a new teaching. This is not the teaching where you are given a few ideals: be good, be honest, be noble, be celibate, be chaste. And because those teachings don't work for anybody in the world. They may work for 10 people. They're not going to work for the rest of humanity. So the rest of humanity requires a different teaching. You understand the divine and the demonic in yourself. And you come to terms with it and stop fighting with it. And that's a thing which only you can do. Nobody can do this for you. So you've got to see sense in it, and you've got to just become friendly with the so-called demonic thing, not control it. And let us see what further havoc they will do. Why worry about it? Got to be kind to yourself. Any other question? Is 1:30 now? Any other question? If there are no questions, yeah.
Let me try to explain because I have like a lot of ideas. I feel my Atma. I can feel that I'm not a body and I'm not a mind. I feel that I am more like that. Timeless, endlessly, etc. Then I'm trying, my mind tries to associate it with what we are seeing. When you show the picture of the manifestation of the la procesión,
the procession.
The procession in India.
Right.
What you say, all these people are God's manifestation.
Of course.
Okay?
Of course.
They all come from God.
Of course.
And manifested as individuals. So, does that mean that everybody has a different Atma?
Same Atma.
Same Atma?
Same Atma. What is different is the consciousness or the mind. The consciousness or the mind is different. The Atma is the same. So the Atma is the primary manifestation of God. The consciousness means the feeling nature, the manas, the intellect and the ego, they are different. Ego with the likes and dislikes, manas with the feeling nature, some people having more feelings, some people cold and feeling less. And the intellect, some people intellect is bright, some people intellect is not so active. So that is different. But the Atma is the same. So in all the millions of forms that you saw, the higher the form of the Supreme Reality is the same in every form. That is also the same in the cat and in the cockroach. And the lower manifestation is the body and in the consciousness, the feeling nature, the intellect and the ego. That is different from one individual to another individual. That is different. And that has to be understood. So the meaning of that oneness is you have got to get at the Atma. And unless you get at the Atma, because the Atma is the string which passes through the whole of creation. That string, common denominator, which is passing through the whole of creation. And that is outside of time, and that is sacred, and that is God. God in the sacred form. Even everything is God here, but this is the secondary manifestation of God. The earth element, the water element, the fire element is the secondary manifestation of God. The primary is the unmanifest, eternally sacred, uncorrupted, untouched by time. So all this has to be understood.
Yeah, it's just that I had this thought that